Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the public seminar, Responses to Terrorism and Transnational Crime in Southeast Asia, Canada, Interpol, and Indonesia, organized by Region of Canada to ASEAN and ASEAN Studies Center, Faculty of Social and Political Sciences, Universitas Indonesia. And before we proceed to the seminar, I would like to remind once again for the attendants to move forward to the front seats because we still have a lot of empty seats in the front. So please come forward. And before we proceed to the seminar, we're going to have the safety induction first.
Indonesia. Before we start, please allow me to deliver the safety induction. We are in the Auditorium Yono Sudarsono, second floor, the Faculty of Social and Political Sciences, Universitas Indonesia. In the room the main door is behind you and the emergency exit is on the left side. The emergency stairs and restrooms are next to this room. Always use the handrail when up or downstairs. Earthquake emergency procedures. Stay calm and do not panic. If possible, directly out of the building. If not possible, take the shelter under any solid tables or desks. Protect your head and hold. When the shaking stops, evacuate to outside of the building toward assembly point. Fire emergency procedures. Stay calm and do not panic. If able to, put out the fire using fire extinguishers located outside the left side and in front of the main door. If you cannot put out the fire, leave immediately and make sure the building alarm is activated and emergency personnel are notified. Call the emergency number, the Faculty of Social and Political Sciences, Universitas Indonesia, 021-727-0006, extension 217. Evacuation out of the building using the stairs and not allowed to use the elevator. Follow signage evacuation to the assembly point next to right and behind of this building until declared safe condition. The Faculty of Social and Political Sciences is a non-smoking area. Keep the environment clean and put the garbage on the trash bin. This information state of emergency prevailing in this space. Thank you for attention.
And now we're going to have the opening remarks, and we welcome Mr. Stuart Shaw, the Political Counselor of Mission of Canada to ASEAN. Mr. Stuart, the floor is yours.
Selamat pagi, good morning, salam sejahtera. Dr. Ali Sosito, Dean, Faculty of Social and Political Science, Chief Superintendent Harold O'Connell, Director of Capacity Building and Training at the INTERPOL Global Complex for Innovation, Dr. Celestiana SMD, Head of PhD Program at the Indonesian Police Science College, Professor Yuni, then Professor Wardoyo, Professor, mahasiswa terhormat, Ibu-ibu, bapak-bapak. Very nice to be here this morning. Saya merasa terhormat diberi kesempatan untuk berbicara dengan kalian hari ini. Kita berkumpul untuk diskusi topik yang sangat serius dan sangat penting. Bagaimana kita bisa bekerja sama untuk melawan terorisme, dan kalau saya bisa meminjam trademark polisi RI, how can we turn back crime? Saya juga senang atas kehadiran kalian. Saya suka berdiskusi dengan mahasiswa dan pemuda yang pintar. Dan saya tahu kalian pasti pintar karena kalian sudah pilih jurusan politik dan hubungan internasional. Itu jurusan saya juga. Apalagi kalian hadir pagi ini, saya harap bukan hanya untuk snack-snack, tapi itu saya juga mengerti. Saat saya kuliah, kalau ada seminar yang menyediakan makanan, saya pasti hadir. But today I'm going to make you sing for your supper, and that means I'm going to make you work for your lunch. We have 3 excellent presenters today, and I hope you will listen closely to each of them and then ask some hard and interesting questions. But before we get to our panel, Prof. Roto and Prof. Uni asked me to say a few words about Canada's view and approach to transnational crime and international terrorism. The first thing I want to say is that the Government of Canada firmly believes that violent extremism, terrorism, and crimes cannot be associated with any country, creed, or religion. Terrorism bukan masalah agama Islam atau agama Buddha atau Kristen atau Hindu. Terrorism isn't just a problem for Southeast Asian or Westerners. Terrorism is a problem for us all. For crime, it is the same. There's crime in Indonesia, there's crime in Malaysia, there's crime in Canada, and Harold, there's even crime in Singapore, right? And there's crime that crosses borders in ASEAN, between the ASEAN region and Canada. And unfortunately, some of the recent terrorist attacks have brought Indonesia and Canada closer in a tragic way. I'm sure that you remember the terrorist attack at Serena in Jakarta a couple of years ago. I certainly do because I watched it on TV. And I was very surprised because the attack happened at the same location as my very first meeting ever in Indonesia. So that was a little bit scary for me. Not only that, it's only about 2 or 3 kilometers from my office. And as I said, we shared this tragedy with Indonesia because one of our citizens was killed. And that was a very tragic event for us personally, because at the embassy, we had to support his family, and we got to know them, and it was very difficult for everybody. But Canadians have also been killed in terrorist attacks at home and in the Philippines. So we have a direct interest in working with Indonesia and your ASEAN friends to counter terrorism. But this is not the only reason Canada is a partner. Canada is a strong supporter of Indonesia's and ASEAN's development, and we share many of the same ideas. Indonesia and Canada are democratic countries that place great value on freedom, respect, and diversity. That's Bhinneka Tunggal Ika for you, and official multiculturalism for us. But terrorism and crime threaten our freedom and our diversity. So we must act to prevent and respond to crime and terrorism, but we have to do so in a careful way and ensure that we're careful in the way we proceed. Our experience shows that military or hard security options are insufficient and, in fact, can make the situation worse. Canada is therefore taking a comprehensive approach to addressing terrorism and international crime. This is an approach that addresses the underlying causes of terrorism, such as poverty, unemployment, social grievances, and a lack of education, and an approach that fully respects human rights. That means making sure our laws protect all of our people and carefully following these laws when investigating incidents or taking preventive measures. Canada is also one of the first countries to introduce a feminist foreign and international assistance policy. That means we are putting women and girls at the forefront of our development and counter-terrorism programs. It does not mean that we are forgetting about men and boys. It just means that we are working with everyone towards gender equality. We do so because we believe that empowering women and girls, we can mobilize all people of our societies to counter extremism and criminal ideas. This is changing the way we work with our partners. It means that our partners must involve women in decision making and ensure that our projects respond to women's specific needs. I'm especially conscious of this today, because don't forget it's International Women's Day, and I wish you a happy International Women's Day. So I'd like to point out our close collaboration with Prof. Uni in organizing this seminar, and to thank my colleague Ayushi Arahan, who runs all of our public affairs at the Mission of Canada to ASEAN. Saya juga senang sekali Dr. Suzianta hadir bersama kita hari ini. Beliau turut mendukung Membantu pendidikan kepolisian di Indonesia dan itu sangat penting dalam bidang ini. Apalagi dia contoh untuk perempuan dan mahasiswa. So you might ask, sorry, that means I also want to see smart young women participating in our discussion. I'm happy to see many smart young women here today. But why might you ask, is this important for counterterrorism and crime? It matters for a number of reasons. First, women and girls are affected by terrorism and crime differently than men and boys. While both men and women can be terrorists and criminals, and both can be victims, it happens in different ways, with women often being more vulnerable. This is particularly true in the cases of trafficking, where women face sexual exploitation of the worst kind. Now, this is not a comfortable subject to discuss, but it is one where we all have an interest, and we must act. Women also have different perspectives and arrive at different solutions for similar problems. That is hugely valuable to us. We need everybody thinking about how to come to solutions, but different solutions are very important. So that's a major reason why we're so committed to involving women more and more in our anti-crime and counter-terrorism efforts. And I'm happy to tell you that earlier this month, we just completed a Women in Policing seminar with actually Harold in Singapore with INTERPOL, and that included police women from all ASEAN countries. And universities are an even greater place to start. Universitas adalah tempat di mana ide bisa berkembang, tempat di mana kita bisa berdebat dan berpikir tentang masa depan negara-negara kita. That's one reason I'm so happy to be here with you today. So let's take advantage of our discussions today to think about the challenges of terrorism and crime, but also to think of some ways that we can work together. Terima kasih. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tor. That's a very insightful opening remarks. And now we're going to have the opening remarks from Dr. Ari Setiabudi Susilo, MSc, the Dean of Faculty of Social and Political Sciences, Universitas Indonesia. Dr. Ari, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Very good morning to all of us. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Excellency Ambassador Mari Lushana of Canada Mission to ASEAN, who represented by Political Counselor Stuart Shaw. Thank you for your speech, and I really surprised you deliver your speech also in Bahasa Indonesia. You have very good Bahasa Indonesia. Thank you. Also to our guest, Director Harold O'Connell, Director Capacity Building and Training, Directorate from INTERPOL. Welcome to our campus, especially to Faculty of Social and Political Sciences in South Indonesia. To Police Senior Commissioner Dr. Anna. Dr. Anna is also alumni of this faculty. So welcome back to now Dr. Anna works in the Indonesia Police Science College, STK. To Dr. Broto Wardoyo, the lecturer at the Department of International Relations. Here also we have Dr. Sofwan Albana, who represented the head of Department of International Relations, and also maybe representing the Director for ASEAN Study Center, Dr. Edi Bastiono. Dr. Ali Wibisono, from Department of International Relations. Former Dean of Faculty of Social and Political Sciences, Professor Bambang Sergi Laksono. Thank you for coming, Pak Bambang. Dr. Another is Dr. Asra. Dr. Asra also from Department of International Relations. And I see many students. Is it only from Faculty of Social and Political Sciences, Department of International Relations, or also from another you from another School of International Relations. Welcome to our campus. Thank you very much for coming. And also, I see Dr. Nurul, the Secretary Department of International Relations. Actually, you should sit in the front, Dr. Nurul. Good morning. Thank you very much for conducting this seminar, especially for ASEAN Study Center in collaboration with the Canadian Mission to ASEAN. Yeah, thank you very much for conducting this seminar. This is very, very important seminar according to many aspects. First, related to the global situation, including our situation in Indonesia, that terrorism still as a threatening factor for us, all of us. So this is still a very important factor, very important things to be discussed. Yeah? And also for us at the Faculty of Social and Political Sciences, that we have many departments related to this issue of terrorism. Department of International Relations, Department of Criminology, and another department also in this faculty, that we can see actually the terrorism not the single problem but multi-problem, or must be assessed, or must be assessed from the various aspects of the science. Yeah. That's why now the School of Magister Program for Terrorism and International Security, we have also in Indonesia, and now conducted in the School of Multidisciplinary Postgraduate of Indonesia. So, as a Dean of Faculty of Social and Political Sciences, again, I strongly support for this seminar, and thank you very much for conducting this seminar. I hope this seminar can give us many new information about terrorism, the dynamic of terrorism. And since actually I have problem now with my sore throat, actually now I'm still in the process for recovery after I got bad sore throat last week. So actually I am not allowed to speak in loud and long speech. So with all my respect and my apology, I would like to invite Dr. Sofwan Albana to deliver the speech of Dean regarding this topic. But before Dr. Sofwan Albana deliver the speech on behalf of me as a Dean, I would like to officially open this public seminar, Responses to Terrorism and Transnational Crime in Southeast Asia, another INTERPOL and Indonesia. I officially open. Thank you very much. So, please, Dr. Sofwan Albana, with all my respect, deliver my speech, leading my speech on the audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ari Susilo, the Dean of the Faculty of Social and Political Sciences, Universitas Indonesia. Well, actually, I'm here to replace the role of Mas Edi, Dr. Edi Bastiono. So now I'm also helping to read the speech of the Dean. So I'm substituting two important persons right now. I feel the pressures are coming. So let's start with the first GP for reading, delivering the speech by Dr. Ari Susilo, the Dean of the Faculty of Social and Political Sciences. Good morning and welcome to the Faculty of Social and Political Sciences. This morning we gather here at the Auditorium Juwono Sudarsono to discuss an important topic, that has become a subject of heated debate in Indonesia in the past few years, the issue of terrorism and transnational crime. It is timely that ASEAN Study Center and Canada Mission to ASEAN organized this conference entitled Responses to Terrorism and Transnational Crime in Southeast Asia, Canada, INTERPOL, and Indonesia, as we are currently facing a growing threat from terrorist network with the rise of the ISIS-affiliated groups in Indonesia, as well as a growing threat from the transnational crime networks, which, among others, we can clearly see from the flow of narcotics to our country. Efforts to combat both terrorism and transnational crimes have been taken by our government. In the case of terrorism, for example, the government has adopted the law on terrorism to tackle the threat from terrorist network. Recently, the government proposed the amendment of this law, which turned out to create a heated debate within academics, NGO activists, and general public. Since the Bali bombing in 2002, Indonesia has continuously become the victim of terror. Hence, amendment of the law on terrorism should be taken to improve our capacity to combat the growing threat from terrorist networks. Despite the fact that our counterterrorism strategy has been extremely successful throughout the years, adjustments are, of course, required. The current nature of terrorism threat, as well as the threat from transnational crime, is quite different from the old days. To effectively tackle threats from both terrorist networks and transnational crime groups, cooperation between countries is necessary. Members of ASEAN countries have developed various mechanisms of cooperation to tackle both threats from terrorist networks and transnational crime groups. 2 days ago, following the ASEAN Defense Ministers meeting retreat, ASEAN released a statement reiterating their commitment to enhance cooperation in combating terrorism. In this meeting, ASEAN also identified terrorism as the most serious security threat to the region. In addition to ASEAN, cooperation within other organizations is equally important. INTERPOL, as a leading organization in dealing with threats from terrorism and transnational crime, has brought benefits to its members in tackling these issues. Hence, it is a good opportunity for us to hear directly from our guest, our experienced guest, Harold O'Connell, the Director of Capacity Building and Training Directorate in INTERPOL Global Complex for Innovation on their current strategy to combat these threats. I do believe that we can learn a lot on how to manage the threats from terrorism and transnational crime from our speakers today. As suggested by its title, speakers of this conference will share Canadian, INTERPOL's, as well as Indonesian perspectives on managing the threat from terrorism and transnational crime. With this, I would like to conclude my speech. I hope you all will have a great discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ari and Mr. Safwan. And now, we're going to have a token of appreciation given by the Dean of Faculty of Social and Political Sciences to the mission of Canada to ASEAN. So with this, we invite Mr. Stewart, Dr. Ari, and Mr. Safwan to come forward and deliver the token of appreciation. And now we're going to begin the public seminar, but before we proceed to the seminar, I would like to remind all the attendants that after this, we are going to have a quiz, right, Mr. Stewart? And we will have a lot of prizes from Mission of Canada to us. And so please pay attention, because the topic is very interesting and important, and you might get a lot of quizzes after this. All right, and now we're going to invite Mr. Stuart Shaw, the political counselor from Mission of Canada to ASEAN, as today's moderator of public seminar. Mr. Stuart, the floor is yours. Right.
Actually, I feel very lonely up here, so I would like to invite our speakers to come up.
Check.
Okay. So as we heard in the opening remarks by myself and esteemed doctor, we have three great speakers today, and I don't want to speak too much longer because you already listened to me. So I'd first like to introduce Prof. Roto Ardoyo. He's going to be our first speaker, and I think probably most of you know him already, but he was born in Kelantan only 2 years before me, so I'm very impressed that you've already reached professor and much more accomplished than I am. He's been a lecturer here since 2002, which is amazing. He has a PhD in Asia Pacific Studies from National Chengdu University in Taipei, and an MA also in Asia Pacific Studies from the same university. And he is alumni of University of Indonesia. So his main research areas include intelligence studies, terrorism and insurgency, military, politics, Indonesian policy in the Middle East, and Indonesian security policy in the Asia Pacific, which is perfect for today's discussion. He is a widely published author, and he also frequently contributes to Kompas and Koran Sindo and the Jakarta Post. So Prof. Roto is going to give us the academic view from Indonesia, and without further ado, Prof. Roto, do you want to sit down or do you want to...
Okay, thank you, Stuart. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First, I would like to say thank you to the organizer for having me here. I was asked by the organizer to deliver a short presentation on Indonesian counterterrorism strategy. So basically what I'm going to do in this seminar is to analyze the Indonesian counterterrorism strategy, and in particular I would like to discuss whether involving the armed forces in our counterterrorism strategy is a good idea or not. And the way I'm going to organize my presentation is basically I'm going to discuss first about the performance of Indonesian counterterrorism strategy and what are the problems ahead that we are going to face in the future. And then I'm going to discuss the conceptual approaches of counterterrorism strategy, and then the changing nature of terrorism threat in Indonesia and also the pro and cons. And then also the debate on the amendment, the government plan to amend the law on terrorism in Indonesia. And then what we can do in the future as a researcher. Can anyone hear my voice? I hope I'm lucky with this. So when we discuss the performance of Indonesian counter-terrorism strategy, we basically already have the law on terrorism, which is basically Indonesia adopted the. Can I have the next slide, please, so that everyone can see? So basically, the Indonesian counter-terrorism strategy consider terror as an extraordinary crime. So it's not just a crime, but we do not consider terrorism in the spectrum of war. And we're doing so basically it is a policy-led counter-terrorism, and we decided to do so because we adhere the principle of human rights and also the principle of democracy. And from 2002 until today, there has been a mixed performance of our counter-terrorism strategy. Experts basically suggest that our counter-terrorism strategy has been a case of success. Because basically we have been able to detain and also disrupt the terrorist network in Indonesia. But there's also cases of abuses, especially conducted by our counter-terrorism detachment, or we basically know it as Densus 88. And in 2016, we had another attack, terrorist attack in Tamrin, in Jakarta, and it created a new debate in our counter-terrorism strategy, whether or not we should incorporate or whether or not we should involve the armed forces in counter-terrorism strategy. Until today, we have seen a debate between police force and the military, the armed forces, and there's also academic involvement in it. And to me, it became a sort of inter-department rivalry. So basically, it is a rivalry between agencies, and some of the experts suggest that the basic point of this debate, the main idea of this debate, is basically share of resources. So what I'm going to do, because I'm from an academic community, I'm going to find whether we can have a justification, an academic justification, if we want to get the armed forces involved in our counter-terrorism strategy, in our counter-terrorism mission. So the debate basically begins with the government plan to amend the law on terrorism. So basically what we did with our counter-terrorism strategy is first we adopt what we call as, in academic we call it as a punitive tactic, which is basically the police force in Indonesia have been able to detain and to prosecute a significant percentage of Jamaah Islamiyah leadership. So this is one of the reasons why scholars and experts usually suggest that Indonesia can be a very good success story with regard to counter-terrorism strategy. But on the other hand, there was also challenges ahead. One of the challenges basically came from the rise of ISIS. ISIS presents a new kind of threat in terrorism studies. It is different from the previous or the oldest terrorism threat to Indonesia. And then, in addition to punitive tactics, we also adopted what we call in academic community as the defensive tactic, which is in the case of Indonesia, the police force, Densus 88, and also the NPT basically adopted the strategy of de-radicalization, which is basically how we can engage with those who are involved in terrorist network and try to get them to us to work with us in dealing with the future threat of terrorism. But until recently, there was also a debate whether this strategy works very well or not. Because if we check into the numbers, it is true that there is only a few of former jihadists, that's the term that we usually use, former jihadists, who rejoined the terrorist network in Indonesia. But when we discuss about that one, it's also an evidence that basically not all of those former jihadists are living their previous life, living their previous radical activities in Indonesia. And there's also a question whether their involvement in de-radicalization process in Indonesia is basically genuine or not. Or it is basically based on a sort of economic benefit given by the government to these jihadists. So there's also the problems, those two problems in our preventive action. And in the future, it seems that we are facing two different challenges. The first one is we need a better cooperation between agencies, because in Indonesia, when we discuss about counterterrorism, we're basically dealing with the police force, we're dealing with the BNPT, and we're also dealing with intelligence agencies. And in the future, we need a better cooperation between these agencies. And there is also another problem if we want to add the armed forces within this institution who combat terrorism. And also in 2016, we was hit by a terrorist attack. And for the first time, Indonesia was hit by a terror attack conducted by ISIS or ISIS-linked or ISIS-affiliated groups. And also in 2016, we also witnessed the rise of what we call MIT, which is basically the Mujahidin of Indonesia Timur, led by Santoso, which is a group that is not affiliated with Al-Qaeda, but they decided that they're going to declare their affiliation to ISIS. So we are facing two different threats in terrorism in Indonesia currently. If we discuss about the counter-terrorism strategies itself, academically there are basically three different approaches in counter-terrorism strategy. The first one is what we call as the war model counter-terrorism strategy. The second one is the criminal justice counter-terrorism strategy. This one is the one that we adopted until today, the criminal justice counter-terrorism strategy. But there's actually a third option if we want to kind of create a new counter-terrorism strategy, which is what we call as the extended criminal justice counter-terrorism strategy. The difference between these three strategies is basically when we discuss the war model, military will be the main actor, which is it's adopted by the US, it's also adopted by several countries. And if we adopt criminal justice counter-terrorism strategy, as in the case of Indonesia, the police force will be the main actors. And if we decided to move forward to the extended criminal justice counter-terrorism strategy, basically we will ask the intelligence agencies as the main actor in counter-terrorism. This is basically adopted by, for example, Israel. So the question is basically, if we want to adopt certain kind of counter-terrorism strategy, what will be the main reason, what variable that we have to focus on, that we have to clarify? The first thing that we need to take into consideration when we want to adopt certain kind of counter-terrorism strategy is what is the nature of the threat. And when we discuss the threat of terrorism in Indonesia, we can see that basically there are a transformation of the threat. There are evolution of the threat from terrorism in Indonesia. In 2002, we began to understand that there was a group called Jamaah Islamiyah, which is basically, it's a global scale group because it was supported by Al-Qaeda, but their activities is local. So that is why I decided to use the term global scale, but it's a local activities. And since 2002, we adopted a criminal justice counter-terrorism strategy, and it brought Jamaah Islamiyah, it's not really to an end, because basically nowadays it is really difficult to justify the existence of Jamaah Islamiyah, but we can witness a lot of splinter groups from Jamaah Islamiyah. So they transform themselves into various groups, smaller groups. So basically, they work on a local scale, and their activities is also on a local scale. But in 2016, we witnessed a different kind of threat from terrorist network in Indonesia. We witnessed what we call as an ISIS-linked group, ISIS-linked terrorist group in Indonesia, which is, they are local group, but they have global activities. Why they have global activities? Because basically, these groups are filled with what we call as the Indonesian foreign fighter. So there's a group of Indonesian people who decided to do jihad in the Middle East, especially in Syria, and they decided to join ISIS. And when the war in Syria nearly comes to an end, they decided to return to Indonesia. They did not return to Indonesia because they want to do so, but because basically ISIS has their own strategy. Since 2014, basically ISIS decided that they're going to send their members to their home countries. So since 2014, we began to witness the inflow of returnees. So basically, according to Sofan Group, there were more or less 50 returnees, Indonesian citizens who used to join ISIS, and then nowadays they were operating in Indonesian territory, also in the nearby areas. BNPT and also the Indonesian intelligence agencies also estimate the same numbers. So basically what we have right now is 50 or so former jihadis who ready to operate in Indonesia, who ready to conduct attack in Indonesia. And the second kind of threat that we're currently facing is basically what we call as an ISIS-linked attack. We already have 2 cases with the ISIS-linked attack. The problem with ISIS-linked attack or ISIS-linked group is basically because they represent a new kind of terror that we call as the atomized terrorism. So basically in the past, if we want to study terrorism, we basically study the organization. We study Al-Qaeda and all of the splinter group, all of the franchise. But nowadays, we witness what we call as the lone wolf terrorism. But they are not simply lone wolf terrorists. They are lone wolf terrorists who are affiliated with ISIS. And the second problem with ISIS is because basically they managed to form a loosely linked group. So the difference between Al-Qaeda and ISIS, basically because in Al-Qaeda, we can see there's a clear relationship between Al-Qaeda in the Middle East, in Afghanistan, and also GI in Indonesia and Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. There's a clear relationship between these two. It is not the case of ISIS. Because basically, in the case of ISIS, if you have a group, a radical group, and you can simply say that I'm affiliating with ISIS, without necessarily having sort of organizational relationship. And this is for me, this is a new kind of threat, because basically we are living in a place, we are living in a time where everyone can be a terrorist simply by saying that I'm there or I agree to the cause brought by ISIS, so I'm going to join them. I'm going to do my activities personally, privately, or with other like-minded persons. And these new threats basically provide the justification if we want to incorporate the armed forces in our counterterrorism strategy. But there are also problems if we want to do that. The first problem is basically when we want to have a want to have a debate between the human rights issues, the protection to human rights, and also the effectiveness. In terms of effectiveness, involving the armed forces will be a good strategy. But when we discuss about human rights issues, involving the armed forces will be a disaster because they are not trained as the police. They are not trained to catch people. They basically trained to kill people. And the second problems that we also will face in the future is because basically if we want to incorporate the armed forces, we are shifting from one paradigm counter-terrorism strategy to the other paradigm of counter-terrorism strategy. And shifting a paradigm will create what we call as inter-agencies rivalry. So if we want to do that, in the future we will have more debates between police and also the armed forces and other security agencies. And the third one, basically, the idea of using military force in counter-terrorism strategies could be replaced by other ideas, such as forging regional cooperation. And that is why I'm very happy that we have Carol here to discuss what Interpol did and will do in the future. So this can be another idea. Instead of incorporating the armed forces, maybe what we should do in the future is basically to increase our regional cooperation, whether with ASEAN or also with Interpol. And the other thing that we also need to take into consideration that there are limitations if we want to involve the armed forces in the counter-terrorism strategy. So at least we will have to deal with these three limitations. The first one, based on research conducted by RAND, there was only 7% of terrorist groups in the world that are ended due to military operation. So there is not a huge number, it's a relatively small number. If we compare, for example, with the strategy of policing to end the terrorist group, the policing strategy manages to end 40 to 43% of terrorist group in the world. And then there's also the second limitation if we want to get the armed forces involved in our counter-terrorism strategy, which is basically if we want to involve the armed forces into counter-terrorism strategy or counter-terrorism issue, there has to be a political justification. And it seems to me that in the case of Indonesia, it will be very difficult to get political justification, especially knowing that we currently have a few issues with military reform, for example. And the third limitation that we also have to take into consideration is basically using the armed forces. We cannot use them domestically. So the idea of having armed forces is basically to do defense. It's basically an externally oriented agency. It's not an internally oriented agency. And in the academic world, for students and also me as an academic, what I would like to suggest in the future is basically to do three different research agendas. The first one is we need to pay attention to the evolution of terrorism itself, especially the evolution of terrorism in Indonesia, their transformation and how they operate in Indonesia, what are the differences between the past terrorism activities in Indonesia, the current terrorism activities in Indonesia, and also in the future. And then we also need to pay attention to what we call as cyber-based terrorism, because with the presence of social media, for example, it will create a different strategy, a different kind of activities. And we really need to pay attention to the issues as well. And the third things that I also support students to do research on terrorism strategies is basically what kind of comprehensive approach on the terrorism strategies that we can develop, that we can build to tackle the issue. And with that, we'd like to thank IST and also Indonesia for having me. And I really like this quote, basically. It is used by Mossad as their motto. So basically, they always say that dealing with terrorism is never letting better. And in the case of never letting better, it is very good for us to have different ideas and very good of concepts. Thank you.
seriously, that well, you might be able to use the military to conduct a very big operation very effectively. The human rights implications could be very serious, which then could, in fact, make the situation worse. And I think you alluded to that when you were saying that only 7% of terrorist activity in the world has been defeated by the military. The police have a much better record, which is a great segue into our next presenter, Colonel Professor Kuliah Umum, who's going to talk to us for about 15 or 20 minutes about the Indonesian police experience. So I'll hand it back over to Kuliah.
Thank you, Stuart, for the time. Operator? Insert the pastor, please. Yeah, just a PowerPoint application. Yes. Alright. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, all the participants and the distinguished speakers from Canada, and Director Harold, and Stuart also as my colleague, Pak Wartowardoyo, because I'm also from Universitas Indonesia. I respect to Pak Sergi because he was my examiner when I think my dissertation before at 2013, Pak Sergi. Here. Yes, I think I will start with the empirical data collected by Densus 88. We see that the total number of terror within 7 years in Indonesia is 130. And catch, I mean the Densus 88 catch around 896 suspected terrorists, including 126 dead, 674 on judicial process, and 96 free of law. Oh, and for that, firstly, I will say congratulations to all the women here because this is the International Women. I thank you for the committee to choose me as the one speaker of this seminar. Continued. It is explained that the total number is increased, and we know that we have one woman at the last cases on December last year. The name is Young Julianovi. That we need to give attention for this because Indonesian women is becoming instrument of the terror attack. So this total number is the problem. But we know that we have 4 institutions that deal with law enforcement. There is Indonesian National Police, BNPT, National Anti-Terror Board, Mr. Harold, and the National Intelligence Board, called BIN, and also we have public prosecutors that they do also intelligence. And I will focus on law enforcement because there is a request from the community. But before we discuss about the problem, the factor, the cause of the terror developed in Indonesia and the solution, I will illustrate the trend of terrorism in Indonesia from period to period. this we can see that we have the ITEE. It is just want you to know that we have some organization in the past that has the same vision with the new terrorism now in Indonesia. We have the ITEE during period in 1949 up to 1954, led by Karto Suwiryo in Java, and had emerged in South Sulawesi by Kahar Muzakar, that established in 1953, and at the same year, this organization is turned up in Aceh by Daud Dira and emerged the new format as GAM, or Gerakan Aceh Merdeka, in 1976 by Ibnu Hajar. We can see this history that has the same vision as the new terrorism now here. And the next period, we have formed Jamaah Islamiyah, as Pak Broto told before, that has been started by, I just use, what is it? Yeah, because just like police when they do a publication, sorry. Started by Abdullah Sukar and Abu Bakar Bashir in Central Java in 1980. They have built at the time the Islamic boarding school Al-Mu'min, or we call pesantren in Indonesia, in Ruki, Sukoharjo. They have influenced and recruited youth through dakwah and broadcast. In the year 1983, AS and ABB had been catch and punished according to the subversive law, that is law of PRPS year 1936, but both of them had escaped in 1985 to Malaysia and built Islamic school Luqmanul Hakim, school madrasah here, also in Malaysia, in Johor Bahru, Malaysia. What is the role and activities? They are preparing and disparting the youth of Indonesia, Malaysia, and Singapore for Tadrib Askari, or military training in Afghanistan. This training is joint cooperation between AS and ABB with radical figures in Afghanistan, that is Sheikh Abdullah Azam and Sheikh Rasul Sayyad. In the year 92, MEE, this is the same vision as IS. They will build Islamic State in Indonesia, but different paradigm has been spirited. There were some differences between AS group, ABB, and Ajingan Masduki, but it has impacted to schism of followers. So AS followers and ABB remain in Afghanistan, and Ajingan Masduki's followers has been repatriated to Malaysia. This also the problem for Indonesia. In the year 1993, AS with ABB has formed Jamaah Islamiyah, or called GI, with AS as GIS Amir until 1999, and then next led by ABB up to 2000. GI has attacked in a series in period in 1999 up to 2000 in Indonesia. That's why it catch up by the Densus 88. The leadership of GI has been taken then by Kuliah Umum for the period of 2002 up to 2003, continued by Adung in the year 2003 up to 2005, and lastly by Zarkasi in year 2005 up to 2007. Jamaah Islamiyah has been exist in 1993 up to 2013, led by Abu Bakar Basir at the first time, and turned up in 2002 as Majelis Mujahidin Indonesia, and to be Jamaah Ansor Tauhid in 2008. We expand the network to East Java, Central Java, Cirebon, Poso, Makassar, Bima, and pursue the community to implement jihad by disseminating the radical ideology in order to establish Islamic State based on Khilafah. That is the essential thing for Ministry of Law to make the decision to finish this organization. And the third period is ISIS. Alright? I think we all know that ISIS threat has been influenced by the global terrorism which has formed in Iran and Syria. There are some central figures at the beginning of its growth in Indonesia. This is data of Densus 88. Let's see the list. Next slide, please. Yeah. That is. That is true. Sorry. The first one is Ustaz Ahmad Abdurrahman. I seen of the person in this list. He has firstly represented the perspective that Muslims must do a pledge of allegiance of ISIS. He said that who hold the pledge of allegiance is Muslim. They call it mu'min. Who reluctant is kafir, and who silent is munafik. I want to know that, Stuart. Is there any mu'min, kafir, and munafik from all audience here? So I call my team then. Second is Bahrum Shah. Bahrum Shah is the chairman of faction in period 2013 up to 2014. He has met Ustaz Ahmad Abdurrahman in Nusa Kambangan, and he has provided propaganda video of solicitation to support ISIS and implement jihad to Syria. And the third one is Abu Jandal. Abu Jandal's role as a preacher, he has influenced his ummah or umat to support ISIS at his position. He has also made controversial video to threaten the commander-in-chief of Indonesian National Defense and the chief of Indonesian National Police in YouTube. And the fourth one is Fahri. Fahri Rolls, also a preacher but at faction and a motivator for Mujahid who will do jihad to Syria. I think we have data, Pak Broto, that a returnist is about 1,200% now, but we are still hedging for around 200, because Yeah, I think this is what I told you before, that terrorists here influenced by the global terrorists, but I think these two sides can be skipped because we all can get this information from so many sides. Yes, here we go, that Mr. Broto mentioned before, the thing that we should give more attention is the trend of changing the terrorists in Indonesia. The Indonesian National Police Anti-Terror Unit, we call it SES-88, highlighted 4 aspects of the changing trend. That is, one is structure. This is especially for the last period. In the period of DITI up to Jamaah Islamiyah, terrorism organizations have a very clear structure and managerial. Each actor has a role and responsibility for his work. The second aspect is pattern of attack. It is known that Jamaah Islamiyah is the group who is responsible for Bali bombing first and second, as well as some other cases such as JW Marriott bomb and Australian embassy. The pattern of attack is using high explosive bombs. And then, what is the third one is funding. There are 3 things to be the focus of terrorism funding. I think this is already discussed all the members of ASEAN countries. We have FK, right, as an organization that's organizing like the program to explore about terrorist funding. Right? Yes. The 3 things, that is source of funds. It can be individual donation, infiltration of charities, low level and organized crime, and legitimate business. I think Indonesian also suspected in local area that has asset that support terrorists, but we can find proof yet, because they mostly do like separation techniques, like the gun. I think here in Malaysia that we have narco-terrorism. And the second one is how to transfer the fund. The mechanism can be formal mechanism by banks or informal mechanism like money transfer, we call like hawala, because we has been experienced in my office really. So I know that one my staff is white terrorist that doing attack in Gambir church, in the church. Yeah. Someday someone came to the office and tried to look for my staff all day and tried to ask money. And then I tried to ask and explore for what that money. And he said said that we have, what is it, like she must do this, to give money for someone who do not pay for buying their meat for the life. So everyone must support this person. Something like that. That's called hawal. And could be use human race. What the use of funds? They use their fund for operational and survival of the organizational network. And then the fourth one is pattern of communication, dissemination of ideology, and recruitment. With technological developments, the spread of terrorism become very massive. By utilizing like blogs, social media accounts, messenger or the others, they can disseminate terrorism and propaganda. And ISIS is known to have a very professional section on this method of radical ideology for all followers. Right. This we will discuss about the strategies as Pak Loto mentioned before. We have not 3 Pak Loto, but 4 actually to deal with law enforcement. There is the Indonesian National Police, the Anti-Terror National Board or BNPT, the National Intelligence Board or BIN, and the last one is Public Prosecutor. The all institution, these 4 institutions I mean, has a job for intelligence. All do intelligence. But they do as their information itself. Sometimes we can see in mass media the publication done by each institution. Even we know that sometimes they ask the information each other, but till now I can find the integrated information that they can do or work together in some cases. Yeah, this is the problem. But I'm not sure the causes of this situation. I think maybe there was a reluctance each other to give information, or I don't know, maybe of popularity also of what is it, performance grade, right? Yeah. I don't know whether in Canada is the same as our system, because intelligence is a part of investigation here. We will start with what is it, intelligence first for doing investigation. We have 7 stages in investigation all until we submit all the documents to the prosecutor. Maybe this is can be a comparison with Canada and being what is it, inspiration for maybe we can do something for better performance for law enforcement. I thought that maybe there was a reluctance, or they don't want that information can be catched by the other institution. But I think this will be finished because all the ASEAN member has a new mechanism now. That's why my topic on this paper we call the shift of counter-terrorism cooperation to collaboration. Next slide, please. Yes, I think we have our eye center. You know this, Mr. Hello? Yeah, this is the new one and just established last year, is it? Yeah. I think we had a meeting in Bali, right? In December, January, right? January, yes. I think this is the, innovation for the law enforcement working that we have actually four, but this can be worked for all the job description for the four institutions before, I thought, including law enforcement, prevention, and could you mind to solve the previous one? Yes, actually they do all intelligence as a part of law enforcement and prevention as like a method of communication, information and education, and also rehabilitation. But for the National Intelligence Board, they do only intelligence, also the attorney or public prosecutor. So next. Yes, they try to organize all the program in the fourth scope, but for the law enforcement, next please. Yes, we have differences between cooperation and collaboration deal with law enforcement. Before, especially in Indonesia, we have only sharing and exchange information of intelligence, but in the form of I-Center, we have alliance sharing intelligence by collecting data, processing, and presentation of strategic information on terrorism, radicalism, and extremism for all institutions. So they can work together like member of ASEAN countries. Yes, this is collaboration. Before they do intelligence itself. So sometimes we try to catch one cases in the field and they publish by itself. So another institution can feel that this is my case actually, but catch by police or another institution like your team. I think this all my presentation. It will be the key for success in handling terrorism at the regional and national level. That's all I can present to the board. Hope it's very useful to both, especially for law enforcement performance on terrorism, on handling terrorism in Indonesia. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Luana, for giving us a rundown of the history of terrorism in Indonesia, and also outlining some of the coordination that needs to be done to properly counter these trends. And that type of coordination is a great lead into Mr. Harold's presentation, because Interpol is all about collaboration between countries. So before I hand the mic over to Harold, let me say a few words about him. He is currently serving as Director of Capacity Building and Training at Interpol Global Center for Innovation in Singapore, where he leads programs for capacity building for 192 Interpol member states. So he does capacity building all over the world. And of course, that includes Canada, Indonesia, and all ASEAN members. Before moving to Singapore, Harold was the Director General of Federal Police and Criminal Operations and National Security in Canada. He also worked as the Director General of the Canadian Police College, so he knows lots about policing as well, and has been involved in international policing development, RCMP as the Royal Canadian Non-Police Capacity Building Programs.
After someone is released, there's also checks and balances through different agencies to take a look at the extent to which people are going to be reintegrated into the community. And that's done through probation and parole services and correctional services in Canada. If I understand the kind of push and pull piece on Interpol is a signatory to many UN resolutions, and we try to share information and ensure that agencies have an awareness of what the different issues are. So that's an important part for us in dealing with 192 member states. So that helps. Okay, so I apologize. The right of privacy and data is a very interesting question, and I thank you for that. And I'm sure that my fellow panelists here will have some comments on this. So this is something that is an issue around the world. So whereby we citizens in different parts of the world have expectations of privacy in what was a non-technical world was fairly clearly defined. Now in a very technical world, not just the internet, but the use in private companies in there, what we determine to be private or that we wish to have held back, let's say, is different based upon your circumstances. So as a private citizen, you may use WhatsApp, which is readily available piece of technology, and you may expect a level of privacy in that. Businesses may use technology that also includes some of that technical pieces for business purposes, legitimate business purposes. What happens is that we also know that criminal entities take advantage of some of these. So the balance is to ensure that we in law enforcement are looking at the technology from the standpoint of the people that are not using it properly or using it for ill-gotten gains. And that there is part of the balance that's really important to work on. And that's not just a law enforcement issue. That there is something for governments that legislate those pieces of regulation, but also you as a community, you as universities, to have the debate about what is your expectation of privacy. We are and will operationalize that at the end of the day, but it's important for you to be part of that conversation.
Okay, thanks, Harold. Ibu Anna, can you talk about an talk about returning terrorist fighters and the potential for them to be sleeper cells. And then perhaps the spread of technology to detect crimes as well.
Yes, thank you. I think I should respond for the first question. It's about how to counter extremism, right? I think this is not my job, because I have to focus on law enforcement. But I will tell you a bit of strategic work in Indonesia. I think we know that we have two approaches. That is hard approaches. It's done by police and three other institutions, and soft approach that done by about 8 institutions, including the religious minister and science and technological minister. Then I think you can find the detail of job description of some minister that has description job of terrorism, related terrorism. I think we have a soft approach that we do like propaganda and dissemination of information to counter extremism in a specific area. We had experience at the last time that is about the student who use cadar, right, in Universitas Sunan Kalijaga. Is that Pak Proto? Yeah, I think it is related to extremism. Besides, we have also experience in Batam, Tegal, that all the students have use cadar. The woman student use cadar. That's also called extremism, and we paid attention for this by inviting priests of mosque, like we have Professor Nazar Dekumar. He is one of a thinker, I think, in the community that do specific session to make his thought of religion more clear, so they can receive the right ideology of Islam. There's also we receive from other terrorists that already rehabilitated by the MPT, that propaganda, dissemination, information, and specific session of religion is more benefit than hard approach that doing by the fourth institution. I think that's all. And about technology, I think WhatsApp is most safe, right? Sorry? Very secure, I think. Yeah. Yeah, because some of technological practices is try to explore information of terrorism from another instrument, like Facebook. Singapore, I think, is more high education for technology. But in Indonesia, I think most people we use WhatsApp, and we do allow full acceptance for exploring information from the network of terrorism.
Thank you for the question. The first question on variables to be considered in responding to terrorism I guess Kuliah already mentioned, already touched upon that question. The second question on bioterrorism, the use of chemical, biological weapon, etc. In terrorist activities. I think up until today, it's still something that we are going to expect to happen in the future. We haven't had a case where there was a terrorist attack who used biological and chemical weapons until today. But in academic literature, there are concepts of super terrorism, which is basically the use of this kind of weapons, weapons of mass destruction and terror attacks. We do have that concept, but I do hope we will not. I do hope that it will not take in the future. The question on breakthrough is basically whether they're going to be a sleeper cell or they're going to actually conduct the attack. We already have examples from both cases. If we look into the series of attacks in France, they are basically a group, quote unquote, sent by ISIS. They used to be a fighter in Syria, and they were sent by ISIS to return to France, and then they conducted attack in France. So we already have that case. Up until today, we still haven't got any case in Indonesia, but we do have an attack in Tangerang in 2016, which is basically sort of supported by ISIS through Bahromsa. And the second question of what can ASEAN do in dealing with the issues of terrorism, I think there has been some mechanism developed by ASEAN. The thing that I still remember clearly is basically that ASEAN INTERPOL, they already have a close cooperation on combating terrorism. And if I'm not mistaken, maybe Buana can clarify that. There is also a mechanism of intelligence sharing among police force in ASEAN countries. I think that's up until today, it's a good platform for cooperation. But we haven't seen any joint operation in combating terrorism, etc. I was thinking at that time that maybe Marawi can be a case, but it's turned out that the Philippine government decided that they will work by their own. But I do believe that other countries in ASEAN are also providing assistance to them.
So on the issue of the foreign terrorist fighters, we want to ensure at Interpol that no country or area wants to be able to transit people through going somewhere else. No country wants to see individuals that are foreign fighters in foreign lands come back to whatever country that they reside in and be able to do so. In the past, we used to see large, complex conspiratorial cases. And as Okar had said earlier, individuals and lone wolves that come into the various nations can also have a very severe impact. So one individual, one significant event. And the other question, just on the chemical matter, what Interpol tries to do is create an awareness around some of the issues and the collection of data on this. And it's not just in regards to the ones that I mentioned, but also on precursor chemicals that can be used in the manufacture of drugs, as an example.
And I'll just add on CBRN and biological terrorism. It's actually something that Canada has been doing in Southeast Asia since about 2003, including on training police, military, and first responders on how to react to a CBRN incident and how to prevent it as well. And then on the biological side, we have quite a big project that tracks diseases and how they can be transmitted across borders. It's something we're paying very close attention to. Okay, so round two of questions. I know we have one here, and then in the back. So let's go ahead.
the person that was going to ask late for his class, so I'm very glad to take over here. Okay, good morning. Thank you, honorable speakers, for your explanation. I think it's very diverse since you came from a various background, from INP, from the Interpol itself, from the academics, and also from Canada mission to ASEAN. My name is Joel. I'm from here, basically, the IR department of University of Indonesia. And currently I'm doing my thesis on Indonesia police cooperation on tackling the transnational crime. And it's interesting that in my readings, I've noticed that sometimes domestic politics often hinder, or even, if I may say, disturb the law enforcement cooperation. For example, I've noticed that in 2014, the Indonesian National Police, or Polri, have cancelled a New Zealand-funded police program in West Papua for police cooperation because they said there were some political hidden motives in these programs. And also, back in 2013 and 2015, Indonesia has debated over the cooperation between Indonesia and Australia and the US itself for the continuation of police cooperation over several domestic politics problems. Therefore, I would like to ask, we understand the sense of urgency in tackling transnational crime. We sense the security issue that you have explained earlier. However, when domestic politics hinders or disturb with this law enforcement cooperation in between countries and through Interpol as well, how does it relate to the importance of transnational crime in foreign policy making in each country? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. My name is Max. I'm the student of International Relations Department, the Magister program in this university. So, my question is open to anyone listening in this seminar, but it's mostly related to what Mrs. Anna has told, and maybe I also expect answer from Mr. Nella. So, Mrs. Anna said that funding is one of a very crucial aspect that's actually changing today's terrorism cases. So, I think it is a very big issue and challenge for us about the terrorism findings. Terrorism financing. So we see in some cases that the terror act is not really related to bomb, suicide bomb, or some action that need big money, but it's now we people do terror act with just knife and then attack the charge, any little action. And then we also see the improvement of financial technology and cryptocurrency used by the terrorist group in financing their act. So my question is, how effective the international instrument, how relevant it is? Let's say Korea have financing as a task force on combating the terrorism financing in the world and also in Southeast Asia. And then how effective we are in countering the terrorism financing. Because Mr. Tan said that there is four main board in Indonesia countering the terrorism, but doesn't include financial intelligence units such as the PPATK. Is it has it been an integrated part of our efforts in countering the terrorism? Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Spirit. I'm from the Faculty of Psychology here at the University of Indonesia. And I have 3 questions for Mr. Harold Pocalo, if that's all right. So my first question is, what are the most common political motives of terrorists when they conduct major attacks around the world? Because we've seen many major terrorist attacks, but each of them usually targets different groups of people. For example, the attack at the Olympics, they attacked Olympic athletes, and then last year they attacked young girls, young children at an Ariana Grande concert. So I assume that they have different motives. So what's like the most common political motives of terrorism? And my second question is, what is the investigation process for INTERPOL when a major terrorist attack occurs? Like, what are their steps of investigation? What do they do first, and what do they do next? And my third question is, how do INTERPOL agents prepare to respond to these kind of terrorist attacks? Like, what kind of training do they receive? Stuff like that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Those are another set of excellent and difficult questions. What I asked for, I'm very sorry to my panel. So, Harold, why don't you start with the last question there?
Thank you very much. The questions are very keen. In regards to the motivations, terrorism versus transnational crime, I often talk about profit motive or ideology. And the variety of ideologies can be quite different, whether you're young or old, and where you're actually targeting some of the crimes. The piece that's important there is the actual threat assessment process is how we determine which ones are the most important. In response to the second one, in regards to investigative strategies, is the collaboration and the quickness, what I would call flash to bang. So police terminology of when a gun goes off, there's a flash and then there's a bang. So in old kind of investigative work, a lot of that, there's a lot of time and space. Today, with modern technology and with the movement of money and movement of people being very easy, that time and space is very short. So we have to understand and teach collaboration that happens very quickly. In response to your last piece, the other strategies around there is also the ability not only to collect the information, but the ability to share the information. 192 member nations and legal frameworks around how we transfer that information, how it's utilized for information and for investigation or for disruption or prevention is something amongst all of the different countries.
Thank you. Ibu Anna, can you talk about the effectiveness of
Yes, thank you. The first question is about police and political domestic, right? I don't think so that the police has related with political domestic, but police is part of national government. So, deal with the security, police has to consider all the interests of all the institutions that has responsible for the security. So, like what we have cases, we try to reject support from outside, means that we has consideration to do it, because maybe some of countries political or maybe of security. It should be considered by the police. But the reason is only security, not politics. And for another one, about the support that we have done cooperation with 3 countries for Papua, I think this is cooperation of other countries that has same interest, like separation cases in Papua, and they have also experience. So Polri ask either support for expertise or education or training for the police member or police officer that has responsible for handling separation in the Papua. And the other one, we have to collaborate to get support some like what they have done in their countries at the same cases of separation like in Papua. So we have so many the same needs with other countries. So we need to collaborate as well. And then about what is that? Yeah, finance of terrorism. I think we have another institution that has responsible to inform to the police about the network of terrorism, how to get money, like PPADK, right? PPADK. And we have also cooperation with all the banks to get the information how the terrorists suspected getting funds from other people or individual or countries. So we have to collaborate with other countries that has indicate to supply funds to terrorists suspected in Indonesia. I think we have a specific organization called FD, right? Yes. There is a format of collaboration within the ASEAN member countries. Is it?
Yeah, but basically, they are my students, so they already asked me the question. So, on the first question, the domestic politics and police cooperation, I think that is the beauty of democracy. I mean, in this system, in our political system, we have to take into consideration different institutions and their interests. And I think one already mentioned about that Polri has their own idea, have their own justification, and has their own reasons in accepting or not accepting a certain offer from other countries. So, yeah, so maybe you can go directly to Joanna and have a more detailed interview. And also the second question, basically, he is my student and he asked me about finance and terrorism. So maybe you can answer back together.
I understand that somebody from BNPT would like to make a comment, please.
Thank you. My name is Alex. I'm from the National Counterterrorism Agency, or NPRA. It's a great time to be here. Explanation from our experts here, our panelists. There are some explanation regarding the presentation of Pak Broto and Luana. First, about the terrorist attack that Pak Broto mentioned, that other type of attack that our terrorists here in Indonesia has done, not only bomb attack, active shooter, but also some chemist attack that they have done. For example, if you guys all remember the attack in Kemayoran police sector, at the time they used poison. They tried to attack police officer at the time. And the other attack is we call dirty bomb in ITC Depok. They use chlorine at the time. And last thing is in Antapani, Bandung. They use radioactive at the time, thorium. So not only conventional attack, bomb or active shooter, but also they use chemical. So just to respond your explanation. And the other thing from Hannah, she explained about the National Counterterrorism as a law enforcement agency. Actually, National Counterterrorism is not law enforcement agency. So National Counterterrorism Agency is a coordinator agency directly under the president, and the main task for the National Counterterrorism is to create the policy, how to respond to the terrorism. So the other thing that I want to get explanation from our friend here from Canada, probably that you mentioned regarding the women, and especially for today we have International Women's Day. We have case here in Indonesia that Gian tried to attack presidential palace and tried to be a suicide bomber. I just want to know from Canadian point of view, the involvement of women in terrorist activity. What is your opinion of this phenomenon? Whether they were victims or they were weapon or instrument to do terrorist act. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. I'll just address the one on women first. I think it's a mistake to consider. I think it's a mistake to consider a woman as an instrument of somebody else, or as a victim in all cases. Perhaps sometimes, but women have their own motivations, just like men have their own motivations, and they should be considered on an equal grounds for as a man who terrorist attack. Perhaps they've been tricked, but perhaps a man has been tricked also. But perhaps they have a grievance. Perhaps somebody they know was killed or arrested. Perhaps they feel their country is being insulted, or their religion has been insulted, or perhaps it's something from themselves. So to consider women as only victims or as only instrument of someone else is a very dangerous mistake. And I think that we should consider them, consider women as fully capable of making their own decisions in all cases. So I think we've come almost to the end of our time for questions. Would anybody else like to make any final comments? Okay.
I explained before that specifically for BMPD, it's do in the law enforcement, prevention and rehabilitation. Different with being a public prosecutor. It almost similar with the police. Also do the four kind of job. But specifically, BMPT doing like formulation of anti-terror, counter-terrorism problem in Indonesia. And then about women, I think in Indonesia specifically, women is being instrument because we have more women in under education, right? Lack of education, like only in basic education or just medium high school. So we need to identify the specific root of causes why women involved in terror attack. That's one. Maybe the MPT can do more research, Pak. Okay. I think that's a very good thing.
Just a final comment, and thank you again for having me here. What we know today will be different from what we know tomorrow. What we knew 20 years ago has changed significantly. And with the onset of artificial intelligence and any other number of issues within all of the different countries, we're going to have to continually be on top of our game. We have to continually be introspective, we have to challenge ourselves, we have to look at the paradigms under which we understand issues, and continually to train and educate. And you as a role here at this university, a pleasure here, and thank you to Canada for the invite into Indonesia as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Balek, for the clarification of the new type of attacks in Indonesia. And I'm basically interested with the idea of women as a terrorist. My field of expertise is basically terrorism in the Middle East. And in that part of the world, there were a lot of cases where women is not only an instrument, they are basically the perpetrators of terrorist attack. So maybe it will be a good idea as well to do a comparative studies between Indonesia, because in Indonesia we haven't had a case of female terrorist attack. Maybe we can do comparative studies with the Middle East and also in South Asia, in Sri Lanka, for example. And again, thank you, Stuart, for having me. Thank you, guys, for everything.
Why I assume that women to be instrument on the terror attack? Because when the investigator asked Dian, he told that he know well why he was being bridge, a bridge, right? Yeah. So by his knowledge of being a bridge, a woman bridge, means that he know well that he will do attack properly. That's our assumption of woman to be instrument in terror attack. Thank you.
Okay, so I'd like to thank our panel. Can we all give them a round of applause, please? So, Vanessa, are we doing a quiz?
So before we move to the quiz, yes, I did mention that we have quiz after this, but after this seminar, we will have a closing remark from Mr. Ali Abdul Bisono, PhD, from the Department of International Relations. So, Mr. Ali, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I literally jumped from my seat being mentioned. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished speakers, participants, I am here to represent the Department of International Relations and also ASEAN Study Center, University of Indonesia. First of all, I'd like to thank our distinguished speakers today, Bapak Harold, Bapak Stewart, Luana, Mas Ito, who have not only shared with us their knowledge about terrorism, counterterrorism, collaboration in counterterrorism, but also facilitated discussion, a very productive discussion on how to respond to terrorism. I don't think I'm going to add any more substance to our already productive discussions, but I guess that from our discussion today, we gathered that terrorists are determined to innovate continuously in terms of weapons procurement, in terms of propaganda, in social media, recruitment, planning of attacks. And it is through this discussion that we find the importance to keep exploring the way forward in terms of evolution of terrorism, as well as how we can collaborate better to mobilize all the resources that we have, police, intelligence, military, as well as the society, to stop terrorism. So on behalf of the Department of International Relations and ASEAN Study Center, I would like to thank all the distinguished speakers and participants for their knowledge and participation in this event today. I hope that we have another chance event to meet up and have another productive discussion on this. Thank you very much. Good day, everyone.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ali, for the closing remarks. And now we will proceed to the token of appreciation to our distinguished speakers and moderator, and it will be given by Madam Nurul Isnaini from the Department of International Relations. So for the speakers and moderator, and Mbak Nurul, please come forward for the token of appreciation. Please do not leave yet, because we will have a quiz and of course lunch, so please take your seats.
Perfect. Deh, dia. Nanti nanya.